So we'll see what happens.
Here's hoping.
Hoping for Jesus. We're still on the subject of mentioning your walk and your talk with the you're going to church and just going to church and not and leaving it there and not taking it home
Right,
with
right,
you. Basically, whoever walks in integrity walks securely. Proverbs 10:9.
right, right. That's
Uh,
not
and it says, "But whoever talks or takes, what does it say? Whoever takes crooked paths will be found out." That's a good one. I like that. And then Proverbs 27, the righteous man walks in his integrity, his children are blessed after him.
right.
So basically, do we know what integrity is?
There is a clinical definition, but the one that makes more sense to me is: do you actually do what you say you're going to do,
Right.
or are you who you say you are? Um, you know, do you have an accurate perception? Um, so yeah, do you actually try to live out what you believe? Are you truly as good of a person as you think you are?
Goody two shoes.
Well, I mean, let's face it. There's a lot of modern age stuff out there that I'm sure it was well meant, and I guess to some small degree, to some people it might help, but there's a lot of it that just simply feeds narcissism.
Like half the time, half people live on April Fool's Day every day of the week.
You ain't kidding.
Like them, what was it, the walruses that they were talking about down at the beach? Did you see that?
I did see that. I did
Was
see
it
that.
walruses?
I want to say so. I had a comment that my cousin sent me that, and I put a comment on there that I'm not going to repeat on here. It wasn't very nice to some people.
Unchristian like? Or
Uh,
Christian like?
Depends on where you're at. You know.
Get some Christians in these chairs. My foot's starting to hurt.
Well, I mean, we've been sitting here for a little while.
That's unchristian like. I'm not complaining. Or am
I think it was.
I? Oh, crap.
Well, don't do that. So the big thing is we're on repeat now.
Yeah,
Um,
unfortunately. We're going to figure it out one of these days.
yeah, maybe. You know, the whole crux of this has been Paul tells us that if you call on the Lord's name, you will be saved. But Jesus tells us that not everybody who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. So we've discussed in a previous episode why, um, what Jesus is talking about. Now, how do you do that? That which is pretty much the focus of today's, or about the 12th time. Jesus himself said, "If you love me, follow my command." That is that's about as tight as you're going to get it.
Yeah.
Um, Paul gives a whole litany throughout his epistles: Christian living, order of the church, so on and so forth. You should do these things. You should probably not do those things. Um, you could call them law, but when Paul is speaking, they're really not a commandment. Unless he's quoting direct. You know, but Jesus tells us that those. Where was I just at?
Uh, Matthew or is it?
I'm in John chapter 14. Um, which is not where I was going with that. Hoorah! Right with you. I think I still got it. Boy, it goes through my head entirely too much. Matthew chapter 7. course, this is where we get the, down at verse 21. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. He goes right on to say, but only the one that does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Okay. Skip down to verse 24. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. I'm trying to skip through for time's sake and everything because I tend to ramble anyway. But that seems to be the crux of it.
Yeah.
Are you one of Christ's sheep? Do you do what he says? Do you know the sound of his voice? Do you follow his commands? Do you at least try to the best of your ability to follow the, what would you say, edicts that Paul lays out? You know, where exactly do I want to go with it? Jesus himself said, you have to love God first and you have to love your neighbor as yourself. Are you using a biblical definition of what love your neighbor means, or are you using a modern definition of what you think the Bible really means?
Right.
And that is a good question.
Right.
I am what you might call an originalist. If I want to know what Paul really meant, then I'm going to search the writings of Paul.
Right.
If I want to know what Jesus meant, well, to our knowledge, Jesus didn't write any of this.
Right.
So we have to go to the Gospels. We have to go to the epistles. We go to the writings by the people who actually knew him. As a living person, Paul never met Christ that we know of. At the time when Christ was walking the earth bodily, Paul was a member of the Sanhedrin.
Yeah,
So we, like at least scripturally, there might be some extra biblical source that would tell us more, but I don't know. Paul might have very well been one of the ones that condemned him to death. We don't know, or at least I don't know. What is found in Scripture is, I think Matthew was the first martyr who was stoned. Paul was present for that one. I mean, it was on his command before his trip to Damascus and his conversion. So when you get right down to it, do you do what Jesus says? Do you do what the Bible tells you to the best of your ability? Are you actually trying to live a Christian life, or are you simply applying Jesus at the end of your life like a last-ditch insurance policy?
Right. You want full coverage all the time.
Well, blood coverage, you know. Are you missing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Laid in.
we might be yeah.
Is it fouling up again?
Yes.
Are we going to talk ugly?
Yes.
Is that a biblical thing to do?
No.
He's like, no, but I can flip this table over and beat it with a whip.
I'm fixing to flip it. I'm fixing to flip it.
So, canceling podcast again?
Yeah, I'm gonna cancel one more time. We're gonna
Hoorah.
try something. Be right back, guys. I apologize. Try something.
Still showing